What is the plan of God for my life? This is a question I think most Christians, if not all Christians, ask themselves at one point in their faith journey. And it's a question that we really need to know the answer to, because if we're following Jesus, we want to know, well, Jesus, where are you taking me? Jesus, what are you doing in my life? And before we begin, and before I give some tips on how we can understand this and unpack this and discover this, I want to preface this all with, hey, there's a general plan for all Christians' lives. And that plan is that we would know Jesus intimately, that we would walk in holiness and righteousness, that we would walk in love, and that we would walk in power and authority, establishing God's kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. That's the call for all believers: to make disciples, heal the sick, preach the gospel, cast out demons, and to disciple nations. All believers are called to do that. It doesn't matter in what sphere of society we're in, we are called to bring heaven to earth. And now in what capacity is another question. And that's the question I think a lot of Christians are trying to figure out. Okay, God, what is the plan for my life? If you find yourself in this place where you're asking and you're still uncertain, you're like, I don't know where I'm going. Some people, they have it. They're like, God's calling me to do this. Some people are like, God's calling me to go preach the gospel in Kenya and be a missionary. Some people know God's calling me to be in the business world and to generate finances for the kingdom. Some people know I'm called to be in performing arts and in the entertainment industry. That's awesome. So for all those that don't know, that are still figuring out or trying to figure out, God, what's the plan for my life? I want to encourage you with a few simple tips that can help you to unpack this thing. Firstly, if you find yourself in this place and you still don't know and you're still not hearing anything, you're like, okay, I'm not hearing what God wants me to do, where He wants me to go, I would encourage you, start thinking creatively, start coming up with some suggestions and some strategies on things that you would like to do, and bring those before the Lord. Inquire of the Lord around those specific things, because you'll start to discover that the Lord and God Himself wants to collaborate with us as His sons and as His daughters. That's why He said He's called us to rule and reign with Christ, to be co-laborers with Him. We're not mindless puppets, we're sons and daughters that He wants to hear from as well. So I want to encourage you, bring some ideas to the Lord. Maybe it's a business idea, maybe it's a studying idea, maybe it's a family-orientated idea, maybe it's a ministry idea. In whatever capacity it is, bring it to the Lord and inquire from Him. And I'm sure you'll be surprised at the engagement you're going to start to have with Him when you start bringing specific things into the throne room and start collaborating with Him on ideas. And this is closely linked with the reality that it's a lot easier to steer a ship that's moving than to steer one that's docked. If you're on a ship and you want to turn it in a certain direction, you want to go a certain way, it's a lot easier to do so when the ship is already moving. So get moving, start coming up with some cool ideas and bring them to the Lord. And then how do we know that God is on something or that is not on something? And there's a few things that we can do or put in place to, I guess, figure out if God's hand is on something. The first thing is that you will have peace in your heart. I like to have this idea, I guess, of, hey, be driven by peace, be guided by peace. When you're trying to figure out if God's on something, or you just about to make that deal or go into that school, go into that course or do this initiative, if you don't have peace in your heart about it, then I would encourage you, hey, maybe don't do that just yet. Maybe think about it a bit more, pray a bit more about it. And if you don't have peace, I encourage you to not step into something. But if you have peace, then I think go, give it a shot. And then with this as well is inquire from godly counsel. Have godly counsel around your life that can encourage you and knows your life as well. Knows your walk, knows your journey, knows where you're at. They can give you good, godly, and kingdom advice, not worldly advice, but kingdom advice around these things so that you can make a good decision. Bring people in on the journey with you, that they can speak into your life and give you good advice on, hey, if you should do something or if you shouldn't do something. Now, our whole lives are not dictated by people, but it's good to hear people's opinions, hear their thoughts, and then being informed about their opinions and those new facts, make a decision about where you're going to go and what you're going to do if you have peace in that thing. And then sometimes the call of God on our lives requires us to do something quite extraordinary or something that's quite confronting or to engage with something that's quite big or maybe nerve-wracking. And it's in those moments where I want to give us this third piece of advice, that we need to die to ourselves. We need to die to ourselves. And if we want to fulfill the call of God on our lives, and some of these calls, they require big faith steps. They require big steps to step out of our comfort zone, to confront certain people, to engage in certain things which we might think is intimidating or scary. But I want to encourage us that I know from my own life that I never want to say no to the call of God in my life. I've decided I'm saying yes to everything God calls me to do. I'm saying yes when He calls me to step out and I'm unsure or I'm uncertain, but I know it's Him. I've decided I'm going to step out to do that. And a great way to help us do this is to die to ourselves, is to lay down every agenda, lay down every preconceived idea, lay down every bit of worldly advice or worldly wisdom, and that we would say, you know what, Jesus, I yield myself fully to your call, fully to your plans for my life, and I'm going to step in faith and expectation, believing that you will come through and that this is going to be something that is profound and something that has great impact for your kingdom. So I encourage you, bring things to the Lord, inquire of Him, collaborate with Him, be guided by peace and have godly counsel around your life, around these decisions, and then die to yourself and just take that step. Take that step of faith and step into the call of God on your life. God bless.